Hello, my name is Larry Manno. I'm chair of the Academic Assessment Committee, and I'd like to take you through our updated assessment processes. So at our last meeting in December, the assessment committee actually updated the handbook, and this is going to be important information moving forward on how assessment is going to be carried out at Triton College. So I just want to give a little bit of background information about the assessment committee. The Academic Assessment Committee is responsible for the development, execution, and support of the college's student learning assessment activities. And so the Academic Assessment Committee is further divided into three subcommittees. We have the Program Assessment Committee, and this is responsible for supporting faculty in assessing program-level student learning outcomes. As you'll see later on through this presentation, only certain programs and certificates will be running program assessments. The General Education Outcomes Subcommittee is responsible for managing all activities pertaining to the administration of general education outcomes assessment. This includes preparation of faculty instructions, surveys and tools, as well as all communications regarding the data collection process, findings, and recommendations. So we'll discuss general education outcomes assessment a little bit later on. And finally, the peer review panel subcommittee, this is responsible for accepting funding proposals designed to improve student learning based on academic assessment data. And so we'll go through the assessment process and you'll learn how funding proposals can be submitted based on assessments that are performed. So now we'll go into the types of assessments. So a class or section assessment, this assessment is going to focus on the effectiveness of teaching and learning within a specific section. So I'll be using chemistry as an example because I teach it and I'm most familiar with it. But for example, we run only one section of Chem 132 in the spring. So the instructor teaching that would do a class assessment, only doing assessment for that particular class. Now, a course assessment occurs in multiple sections. So this assessment examines whether students across all sections of a course are achieving the same learning outcomes. And this ensures consistency in the objectives. So General Chemistry 1, for example, Chem 140, we offer anywhere between 6 to 8 sections a semester. So all of those sections would be running the same assessments. And so the assessment process is going to be essentially put in place, but how assessments are carried out, the assessment committee will recommend, because some instructors prefer to do different types of assessments, and certain methods of assessment work better for certain areas as opposed to others. So what we recommend is if a course assessment is done, we recommend using the same assessment tool across all sections. And again, this is just going to ensure consistent data. We'll talk a little bit more about this as we proceed through this presentation. So, two other types of assessments are program level assessments. And this evaluates how well students are achieving the broader learning outcomes of an entire program. This is often through capstone projects, portfolios, or cumulative exams. And then lastly, general education outcomes assessment. This focuses on foundational knowledge in preparation for transfer and degree completion. So at Triton College, these assessments are going to target communication, critical thinking, information literacy, and quantitative literacy, as well as global learning. So again, we'll talk more about the process for general education assessments later on. So we're going to go ahead and start with course assessments. So all faculty, including full-time and adjunct, will participate in course assessments. Course assessments will occur over a 3-year cycle, and what this means is that all courses within a program should be assessed within 3 years. And so at the beginning of every 3-year cycle, the Director of Curriculum and Assessment, this position is currently vacant, but we're hoping to hire somebody in that position very soon. The Director of Curriculum and Assessment and the Assessment Committee will work with faculty to create a 3-year proposal to make sure that all courses are assessed over that 3-year period. And so the goal of this work is to identify the year each course within the discipline will be assessed. And so currently, we're in the second year of the 3-year cycle. So here are the following steps in course assessment. The first one is going to be to review the 3-year assessment plan to make sure that all courses are going to be assessed within that discipline. So at the start of every fall semester, we're recommending that department faculty meet to discuss and review the 3-year assessment plan for their discipline. And so venues for this discussion include, but are not limited to, the fall faculty workshop, the first department meeting, etc. And the goal of this meeting is to create an assessment plan for the courses scheduled to be assessed during the upcoming academic year. So what we recommend, especially in doing a course assessment, if multiple sections of the course are going to be assessed, is to have one person oversee assessment. So that could either be the department chairperson or the lead instructor or a full-time faculty assigned to oversee assessment. And that way, all the other instructors can go ahead and send that person the data, and then that person can be responsible for entering that data into Watermark. And so assessment plans are due October 1st of each year, and this can be directly entered into the Watermark platform. So there'll be another training in a few weeks, and that's actually going to go through how to enter data into Watermark. So look out for that training later on. So again, I'm using chemistry as an example for course assessment. So we have a total of 7 chemistry courses within our program. And so what we did was we determined that introductory chemistry courses will be assessed during year 1. And so we did those courses last year. And so year 2, which we're currently in, we'll be assessing our general chemistry classes. And then lastly, in year 3, which will be next year, our organic chemistry classes, 234 and 235, will be assessed. And what we're doing is we're making sure that we assess all course outcomes for each course assessed during the given year. And again, that might change based on how your program is running assessment. So for chemistry, each of our courses have approximately 4 to 6 course outcomes, and we're looking at assessing those course outcomes for each of the courses we're going to be assessing. Let me just go back and get into the correct slide. So yes, after the assessment plan is created, the next step is going to be to identify and upload artifacts aligned to assess each year's course outcomes. So once again, if multiple sections of a course are being offered, we strongly recommend that a common assessment tool is used to assess the courses. And then that assessment tool can be created by the faculty in that program in conjunction with either the department chair, the lead instructor, or the person assigned to oversee assessments. And so then for the course assessments, dual credit instructors and adjunct faculty will be provided with rubrics and the selected artifacts. So if common assessment artifacts are not chosen, then each individual faculty member would be responsible for uploading a copy of the artifact that they use into the Watermark planning and self-study platform. So if this is only going to be a classroom assessment, meaning there's only one section of the course being offered, then that particular faculty member would create the assessment tool, carry out the assessment, and then upload the results into Watermark. And so artifacts aligned to assess the target for success will be discussed and identified by the department. So for chemistry, what we look at is that 80% of students taking the assessment will come up with the result of 80% or better. But again, that benchmark can change from course to course. And so this work is to be completed by October 31st of each year. So by October 31st, what we'll be looking at doing is having those assessment tools uploaded into Watermark. And so working with the Director of Curriculum Assessment and the Assessment Committee, the deans then will be responsible for following up with faculty for any missing or incomplete work. All right, so after steps 1 and 2 are complete, step 3 is going to be to run the assessment and report the results. So an assessment report, which summarizes the results of the assessment, will be due March 15th of each year. And just like the plans and the tools, the reports can be uploaded directly into Watermark Planning and Self-Study Platform. And so again, working with the Director of Curriculum Assessment and the Assessment Committee, the deans will follow up with faculty for any missing or incomplete reports. So I want to stress that the workshop that will be done in a few weeks will cover all of these forms. It'll cover what the assessment plan looks like and what the assessment report looks like and how to go ahead and enter that data into Watermark. Now, the final step in course assessment is going to be to discuss assessment results to determine if any action needs to be taken. So, the data will be provided for faculty to review, and venues for this review and discussion are going to be limited to, not limited to, but Learning Improvement Week, April department meeting, etc. And so faculty teaching the same courses will determine if targets were met or unmet and decide on the next possible step. So if a benchmark was set, for example, of 80% of students taking the assessment, scoring 80% or better, if that benchmark was not met, then faculty can decide on an action plan. What would be the next steps taken to improve student learning? And if requested, the Director of Curriculum Assessment and the Assessment Committee can help with these conversations. So the action plan will be due by April 15th of each year, and that information can once again be entered into Watermark Planning and Self-Study Platform. So once we go over the Watermark training, you'll be able to see how that information can be entered and what specific steps can be taken to improve student learning. And again, deans will be responsible for following up with faculty for any missing or incomplete reports. And so I just want to review the due dates for course assessments. So once again, assessment plans are going to be due October 1st of every year. The assessment tools are going to be due October 31st of each year. Assessment reports will be due March 15th of each year, and then the action plans are going to be due April 15th of each year. So program assessment is going to follow a similar format to course assessment. Program assessment will be conducted only for AAS degrees and certificates only. And so all faculty will be responsible for doing course assessment, and then faculty that have AAS degrees and certificates will also be responsible for running program assessment. And so the goal of program assessment is to ensure, like course assessment, that all outcomes within a program are assessed over a 3-year cycle. And so if a program, for example, might have 6 outcomes, then maybe 2 of the outcomes would be assessed each year to ensure that all of the outcomes will be assessed over the 3-year cycle. And program assessment will follow the same 4-step process as course assessment. So the plans will still be due October 31st. The tools will, or October 1st rather, the tools will still be due October 31st. And then plans and action plans will be due on the same dates as the course assessment were. And these can also be entered through Watermark Planning and Self-Study Platform. So there are funding opportunities available based on assessment results for course and program outcomes. And so the peer review committee panel, this is one of the subcommittees of the assessment committee, is allocated $30,000 each year to award curricular change proposals based on academic assessment of student learning. And so the panel is going to be looking at the following criteria. Is there a clearly articulated funding request with specific dollar amounts attached? Is there a persuasive argument for the ask supported by data and evidence of the assessments? And is there a completed assessment report that supports the ask? So all 3 of these need to be completed in order for the proposal to be considered. And funding proposal forms may be obtained under assessment documents on the curriculum and assessment portal page. Due dates are provided on the form, and proposals will be assessed on a first come, first served basis and accepted until funds run out. Should the panel have more adequate proposals than funds, The panel will consider institutional priorities and rubric scoring to determine which proposals to fund. So this is an abbreviated copy of the form that's up into the curriculum and assessment page. And so curriculum revisions will be awarded up to $1,000, and this completion date is June 30th. Professional development will be completed by June 30th as well. So technology requests up to $2,500, this must be purchased by February 28th. And then others will follow the same deadline as the first two, due on June 30th. So these deadlines are going to stick unless the assessment committee deems otherwise that the dates need to be changed. So for now, these are going to be the dates that we're going to be working with. So the last type of assessment that I would like to discuss is general education outcomes assessment. So what's going to change is that general education outcomes assessment will now only occur in designated general education courses. So the General Education Outcomes Subcommittee will develop an institutional rubric based on the AACU value rubric, which we've been using over the past few years to evaluate the assessments on these courses. And so, like course and program assessment, the administration of the General Education Outcomes Assessment will occur through watermark planning and self-study. And so the General Education Subcommittee will reach out to departments regarding administration of these assessments, as well as relevant due dates. And these assessments will occur during the spring semester. And so here's a timeline for the General Education Outcomes Assessment. So last year, during the 2023-2024 cycle, global learning was assessed. And so this year, we're going to be assessing critical thinking, and all of the 5 general education outcomes will be assessed over a 5-year period, ensuring that all of them will be assessed. And so these are the specific areas which we'll be asking for assessment. So for example, when it comes to critical thinking, it'll be the physical, life sciences, and mathematics courses under general education, assessing critical thinking. Communication will be communication courses. Global learning would be humanities and fine arts courses, as well as social and behavioral sciences, etc. So again, when that specific general education outcome is up to be assessed, the General Education Outcomes Assessment Subcommittee will be reaching out to faculty in those areas for the assessments. And so what are the specific general education courses? Well, here they are. So for communications, the general education courses will be Rhetoric 101, Rhetoric 102, and Speech 101. So when communication is up to be assessed, it'll be these specific courses assessing communication. Humanities and Fine Arts, these are the specific courses over here that will be running the specific assessments associated with humanities and fine arts. Social and behavioral sciences have these classes over here. I'm just going to pause so you could see for a moment those specific courses. And you could always pause the presentation once you have access to it to look into those in a little more detail. Here are the mathematics courses that are considered general education courses. So whenever mathematics would be assessed, these are the specific courses that will be running that general education assessment. And then physical and life sciences. These are the specific courses over here. All right, so I hope you found this presentation to be useful. I actually did this presentation in an empty room without anybody in front of me, so sometimes it's a little harder to talk through this when you're the only one present. So hopefully everything did make sense. But if you do have any questions at any time, I'm always here to help. The assessment committee is always here to help. You can contact me directly at extension 3003 or Larry Manno at triton.edu. Now, the assessment committee website can also be accessed from Triton's portal page. and this is the link to the assessment committee website. So I look forward to working with you on continuing to move our assessment process forward at Triton College.